Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have two more great stories to read to you all today. One, this flying witch was seen, and another encounter with this alien humanoid seen over Iron Mountain. Both accounts are truly weird, and I can't wait to get into them. Let's read the first article. Flying witch near Turtle Creek Bridge, Darien, Wisconsin. Dawn encounter nearly causes a collision. Let's get into it now. In the early morning hours of February 25th, 2019, a Wisconsin commuter encountered a winged being at treetop level near a rural bridge outside Darien. What began as a routine drive to work escalated into a near collision that left the witness shaken and questioning what she saw. Reports of sudden low-altitude descents by winged humanoids are rare, making this account especially significant. And that was a hell of an opening, folks, setting the stage for the story. So let's read it now. On February 25th, 2019, I received a telephone call from an eyewitness referred to as NV, who reported seeing a winged being early that morning around 5:30 a.m. near Darien, Wisconsin. NV was traveling west on Creek Road on her way to work. As she approached the Turtle Creek Bridge, she observed a large winged being that she described as a flying witch. The being was at treetop level, gliding toward her. Although it was early dawn, there was enough light for NV to make out its form. Yeah. That sounds horrifying, folks. Now, it wasn't like this witch was flying a broom, but I can understand why this winged being would be considered a witch. Because it sort of sounds like basically other accounts where people have encountered either what they describe as witches or other flying cryptids, folks. So I'm not surprised. Either way, here's a picture of the general area where the sighting took place on this bridge, folks, I guess. Either way, yeah, this is the kind of area you would expect to basically encounter something spooky, at least from the trees alone, folks. But let's continue. Suddenly, the winged being descended towards NV's car and narrowly missed colliding with the hood. NV described the being's wingspan as much wider than her car, and the body appeared to have a brownish color like a paper bag. She noted that the body looked feminine and slight, with enormous bat-shaped wings. Remarkably, she did not notice the wings flapping, and the speed at which the creature descended felt unnatural. The being's face was unremarkable, almost blank. NV swerved her car and nearly hit the guardrail. After the encounter, NV did not see where the winged being flew. She, being of Hispanic descent, mentioned that the being resembled an image of a witch she had been told about as a child. NV expressed her distress and anxiety about the possibility of encountering this being again in the future. I imagine that she's basically referring to the Hispanic legend of the lechuza, a type of witch that resembles an owl, or they're known also as owl witches. They basically have the human head of a woman, but the body of an owl, or something along those lines, folks. So, this sounds very similar too, folks, but let's continue. Commentary and notes. This report contains several recurring patterns seen in winged humanoid encounters, including silent gliding, lack of visible wing movement, and abrupt changes in altitude. The emotional tone suggests acute fear and lingering anxiety, particularly due to the near collision and the unexpected proximity of the entity. Similar dawn and pre-dawn sightings have been reported across southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois between 2017 and 2019, often near waterways and bridges. Theories regarding origins include a winged cryptid species adapted for silent flight, an interdimensional manifestation triggered by liminal environments such as bridges, or an ultra-terrestrial form that presents itself through cultural familiar imagery. Indeed, folks. But then again, this creature had bat-like wings, which is far different from basically a lechuza. But then again, are there other mentions of witches with bat-like wings? I'm not quite sure. It does sound reminiscent of other, winged cryptid entities, folks, so maybe there's something to that. Either way, this entity was very strange, and the fact that basically it was seen, near Wisconsin as well as Illinois, folks, along with the other signs of Mothman or bat-like and owl entities in and around Illinois, folks, as well as basically Chicago and the international airport there, is very telling, because this account is in the same general area, folks. Either way, very interesting. But now, let's move on to the next article. Humanoids encountered in Iron Mountain, Michigan. Beings reported inside UFO disc over junkyard. Let's hear this bizarre account of, Iron Mountain and the alien humanoids that were seen one night by witnesses, folks, that still to this day remains unexplained. So let's get into this article and read the full story. At 10:50 p.m. in 1972, a routine work night in Iron Mountain, Michigan turned into an encounter that would stay with a witness for the rest of his life. What began as strange lights over a junkyard escalated into a close-range observation of occupants inside a hovering craft. Decades later, suppressed memories surfaced, reframing the entire experience. In 1972, at 10:50 p.m., a witness was driving out of the parking lot of his foundry job in Iron Mountain, Michigan, when he noticed an object flying about 100 feet in the air over a junkyard. He observed 4 lights, 2 red and 2 green. Suddenly, the object shot a bright beam down onto several wrecked cars in the junkyard, turned the beam off, and proceeded east, repeating the same action. Very odd, folks. What was this UFO doing, folks? Was it, I don't know, irradiating the car wreckage or something? Or was it basically maybe altering them somehow? We just don't know. Let's read on, folks, because this is very interesting. The object then hovered above some trees and bushes. Curious, the witness drove closer and realized it was a giant round disc-shaped craft. On top was a dome-like structure with a large pane of glass behind it, behind which stood 2 creatures. One of the beings pointed towards the witness's car, then turned to the other. Immediately, a barrier covered the glass, making it look like a disc with a dome. The witness positioned himself directly under the object and saw a mesmerizing red light that had an extremely tranquilizing effect on him. The underside of the craft featured a slight lip around the edge, and crisscrossing its belly were structures resembling tubes or I-beams that connected to each of the lights in a cross or plus sign formation. Eventually, the witness heard a whine like an electric motor starting, followed by a deep silence. The lights then intensified, and 4 globes beneath the object began emitting what appeared to be bolts of lightning. Suddenly, a coil emerged around the disc resembling overlapping fish scales, roughly spherical and about 12 inches wide. Wow, that's an incredible and incredibly odd description, folks. Let's hear the rest of this story now. The disc then ascended, clearing the roof of the foundry before moving slightly northeast. It briefly turned off its lights as it glided across the street, then stopped and disappeared. The witness suddenly found himself back home. It sounds like he was abducted, folks. At least that's what I'm surmising. At least that's the theory I'm going with, folks. But let's continue. Years later, he recalled being lifted by a beam of light and being inside the disc. There, he encountered the same 2 beings he had seen before. One humanoid was about 4.5 feet tall, while the other was 4 feet. They had iridescent gray skin and large eyes with no ears or mouth. Each had 4 fingers on their hands, each ending in a tiny suction cup pads. Inside the craft, everything was metallic with sky blue seat cushions. The humanoids seemed to lack substance, resembling holographic images. The witness received a telepathic message explaining that they needed electrons from the iron in the junked cars as fuel. However, he could not remember how he left the object. Probably because they erased his memories, folks. Why they would even explain what they were doing there, folks, is, well, something subject to debate. I mean, were they really saying that they basically got fuel from the electrons from these junked cars, folks? That could be basically a lie just to placate the witness at that moment, because they were about to erase his memory and didn't think that he was going to remember anything at all later on. We don't know. Either way, like with the first story with this curious witch creature, folks, or at least basically this flying humanoid, these entities give a very inhuman vibe. These entities seemed rather calm, and they almost seemed like holograms, much like the way the flying woman just flew at the witness's car but didn't have flapping wings, folks, like it was an image. Maybe both accounts describe basically a similar phenomena, maybe in dealing with basically aliens, but we're not actually allowed to see their true forms, folks. I mean, the Lechuza, or the winged, well, female humanoid, as I said, could it have been an image that the witness saw? Perhaps because the other witness in the other story said the aliens he saw seemed like holograms, so maybe there's some truth to it. Either way, we're at the end, folks, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions of the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure hit the part of the bell that give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.